Hello, welcome to another speech video. My name is Isaiah Witzman. It is currently 2:51 p.m. and today I am going to be talking about seizures specifically. I have epileptic absent seizures. It is where I tend to space out. My last speech video I had quite a bit. Last time I counted it was about 5. They're noticeable by small pauses within my facial expressions and me just looking off into the distance even though there's nothing there. The way these seizures work is honestly really simple. The best way I can explain it is that if you were to take let me go over it just the easiest way I can. My seizures, specifically the absent seizures, the way they work is that they usually happen due to the fact that my nerve endings in my brain don't have the fat that's supposed to be on them. So what ends up happening is that, let's say I have a lot of motions going on. My brain is sending a lot of signals throughout my body, and because there's no fat to keep these signals contained, sometimes the electrical current will zap my brain and cause my brain to basically reset like a computer almost. It is usually only a couple seconds long. They're noticeable by mouth movements usually, and I tend to space off, and I will just kind of sit there doing nothing for a couple seconds. It really could be anything. They could happen while I'm walking or something, but they're extremely linked to how my emotions work. If I'm extremely stressed, they tend to happen very spontaneously, like one after another. The way these seizures feel when I have one, usually I don't notice one, but when there's one long enough that my brain can recognize that one's happening, basically what you feel is nothing. You don't see anything, everything turns to black. You don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you can't even feel really, you can't even exactly move. You can just sit there and not feel anything whatsoever. It's basically as if you just went brain dead for a couple seconds. Life effects. The way they affect your life differs depending on how severe they are. Mine specifically, I'm not exactly allowed to drive a vehicle, well, most vehicles, unless I have a full year without a single documented seizure, which means that if I have a single seizure in a prior of 1 year, I can't drive a vehicle. They affect my learning. I can have one while I'm listening to a teacher, for example, or something, and completely miss a certain part, and then I'll be confused. They can actually affect how I interact with people, too, because if I'm talking with somebody trying to make friends with them or something, and I just space out randomly and just stare off, it can end a conversation pretty quickly. The cure for these things, that's a difficult situation. There's certain medicines that you can have, I know that, but the best and most natural way, which is how I've been doing it recently, is just lots of sleep and making sure you're not in a stressful environment. That's how I have helped mine. And of course, when I was first found out that I had seizures, I've had them since birth, I guess. We just never really noticed them until I was like 5. I would take medication, but the medication comes with severe downsides. Well, yes, it blocks the seizures from happening. The downsides is that you never have an appetite, you're always extremely irritable, you're tired all the time, and you feel sick. It's really not fun. That's why I haven't taken the medication, and I've just relied on getting full nights of sleep and focusing on well, basically just sleeping and making sure I'm not in a stressful environment so that my emotions don't go out of whack, and then in turn confuses my brain into thinking that I, well, can't do anything. What else? Besides that, the seizures don't really affect a lot. Like I was talking about how they affect my learning and other things. They really don't affect anything besides that. But I honestly don't know how to really explain them further than that. I'm pretty sure that if you watch my other speech videos, you've probably noticed that I've had a few. Sometimes if I have a single seizure, I'll usually just cut it out in editing. But the last one, I didn't want to cut them out just so people could see how they are. So basically, it was for I could say this speech and there would be live example of, well, the seizures. They don't hurt me physically, usually, but another thing is that if I were to have not medicated these or actually tried to fix them, they can progress into grand mal seizures, and grand mal seizures are the ones where they cause convulsions and foaming at the mouth, the more notable types of seizures. But besides that, if you take good care of it, seizures shouldn't really be a problem. I'm allowed, like, certain vehicles that I'm allowed to drive is a bicycle. I'm also allowed to, that's actually kind of it. Scooters, bicycles, skateboards, things that don't have a motor. What else? If you have a moped, specifically, that one of like 49cc, that cubic centimeters in the engine, when it goes like 25 miles tops, you can drive one of those. I have one. They don't really affect your life that much, except for the fact that they can cause a learning deficit because you're, well, spacing out in the middle of certain lessons. You do need to make sure you sleep a lot. And that's really all I have to say about the seizures, honestly. They don't have a lot to do with them, but I've had them basically all my life and have, well, lived with them. So, yeah. Thank you for listening if you watched this full video. And goodbye.